Welcome to this month's episode of Parenting Unplugged, Raising Healthy Teen Minds. Today we're diving into an important topic for parents of adolescents, executive functioning. Joining me is Marie Sawyer, a licensed clinical social worker and supervisor of clinical therapy at our outpatient location in Plainfield. Marie brings a wealth of experience working with teens and their families, and she's here to help us understand the complexities of executive functioning, brain development, and how parents can provide the right support. Marie, let's start by defining executive function. Can you walk us through what executive function is and why it's especially relevant for adolescents struggling with executive function skills?
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. Before I get started, I do want to preface that you'll hear me say child, teen, adolescent, and kid. I couldn't decide on which one to use. So for the purpose of the conversation, these are all interchangeable. And so executive function is really an umbrella term for three types of brain functions, which is working memory, cognitive flexibility, and self-regulation. And I'll break down each function and some real-life situations we can relate to with each one. Working memory is a function of our brain that gives us the ability to hold a piece of information in our brain, while at the same time being able to apply that information to a problem in our mind and helps us make sense of the information that we receive. Working memory allows us to remember a phone number long enough to dial it, to return to our place in the book before someone interrupted us, and to recall whether we had added the right ingredients to what we were cooking before we had to step away to help our kid with their homework. It really enables children to remember and connect information from one paragraph to the next when they're reading, to complete a math problem that has multiple steps, to keep track of the moves and make a logical next step in like a game of chess, and to follow multi-step instructions without reminders, such as turn the TV off, pick up your toys, brush your teeth, and put your pajamas on. Working memory also helps children with social interaction, such as planning and acting out a skit, taking turns in group activities, and being able to easily rejoin a game after stepping away for a moment. For people who don't have executive functioning difficulties, they often don't even have to really think about this brain function, as the behaviors and decisions they make come really naturally to them. Cognitive flexibility, or what we can call mental flexibility, is another function of our brain that helps us be able to adapt to change. So having cognitive flexibility means you're really easily able to shift between different tasks and situations. It's what allows us to apply different rules in different settings. So we might say one thing to a close friend privately, but say something very different in the public context of a party with just acquaintances. For example, if a friend asks us if we like her new haircut and we really don't, we're able to easily shift our thoughts to respond in a way that won't hurt their feelings, because this is what we know as a more socially appropriate response. For children and adolescents, they learn about quote unquote outside voices and inside voices and the different situations in which they should use each. And cognitive flexibility really helps us to catch these mistakes and fix them in real time, and to change our way of doing things when we receive new information. Self-regulation or self-control is the function that supports us to manage our impulsive actions or responses and to set priorities. This skill is really all about how you control your thoughts, your emotions, and being able to focus. So for adolescents, imagine the school cafeteria during lunchtime. Our self-regulation skills would help you, this adolescent, focus on a conversation with their friend in a noisy lunchroom while their brain is consciously blocking out the other noise so they can pay attention to their friend. It's a conversation, or even the noise level in the lunchroom becomes overwhelming, and the adolescent might start to feel irritable, anxious, angry. That self-control skill is how you would resist the urge to act on those emotions, such as maybe saying something that would upset your friend, leaving the lunchroom without permission, or losing their temper altogether. Self-control is a skill that we tap into when we really need to focus on something important instead of daydreaming about something else we'd rather be doing. It's a skill that we as humans really rely on heavily to stop us from saying unkind or inappropriate things when we're angry or frustrated or we're feeling rushed. For children, the skill is constantly developing as they age. A self-regulation for a younger child looks like waiting to be called on when they know the answer instead of interrupting a teacher or a friend, being good at games like Simon Says, and to stop themselves from hitting or yelling at another child who has accidentally bumped into them. The severity of symptoms differ for each child, but here are some examples that may allude to executive dysfunction at home. If you sit with your child and help structure homework assignments, the homework can get done. But if you say, go do your homework, and then you check in later the homework's not complete, or maybe it's not even started because they didn't know how to structure the task by themselves. When you ask your child to go upstairs and get ready for bed, maybe they go upstairs, but then they get distracted and forgot what they were supposed to do next. Your child's bedroom could be described as chaotic. Maybe clothes are on the floor, there's items stuffed inside the dresser drawers that are bursting open. Clean clothes are mixed up with dirty. Maybe there's several little projects and crafts that are half started, or piles of objects that your child has been collecting, and they're all incredibly important to them, so you can't get rid of anything. They might struggle with cleaning their room without really specific instructions on where to start without your help. Another example is you might ask your child to wait while you finish a phone call before he tells you something important, but by the time you hang up with the phone call, he's forgotten what he wanted to say, and maybe even feels frustrated with himself for forgetting, or mad at you for making him wait and forget. If you ask your child to retell a story you just told, she has a hard time remembering and skips important details. Or she might have difficulty telling you a story, bouncing around the topic and going on tangents that are unrelated to the story she had. Another example could be that your child has difficulty keeping in mind all of the elements required to participate in a team sport, a family game, or a multi-person activity. Some signs of executive dysfunction at school can look a little bit different. It might be that the teacher has sent several notes home that your child doesn't finish classwork, has been disruptive or disorganized frequently. Your child could be really engaged and active in verbal tasks like class discussions, but may daydream regularly in class or has difficulty with independent work or quiet times. During your recess, your child could play well with their friends and enjoy games, but when they tell you about it, they can't remember any of their classmates' names. Your child's backpack is a mess, and they regularly forget to bring home materials and books they need to do their homework. The lost and found bin could be full of your child's clothes, books, pencils, anything that isn't physically attached to them. Another example could be if the teacher or friend helps give structure to a task, your child can finish it really well, but really struggles to do so by themselves. If your child has difficulty remembering all the steps required to solve a multi-step math or word problem, that could also be a sign. At home, school, or other areas of life, kids struggling with executive dysfunction can also experience feeling frustrated or angered quickly, have difficulty explaining their thoughts, and act on impulses such as aggression without thinking through the potential consequences. They may even tell you that they don't remember something that happened, or they don't know why they did or said something that they got in trouble for. It's important to note that this is not an exhaustive list of signs, and your child experiencing one or two of these signs doesn't necessarily mean it's an automatic cause for concern, because brain development plays a big part in your child's executive function skills.
Can you explain how adolescent brain development relates to executive functioning skills?
Yeah, of course. So most humans experience difficulties with at least one component of executive functioning skills at some point in their life. So the general experience is very common, but it definitely affects people to varying degrees. With neurodevelopmental disorders such as ADHD, which is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and autism, also called ASD, executive dysfunction is highly prevalent, impacting about 90% of kids with these diagnoses. There are other medical and mental health challenges that can impact someone's executive functioning, and a child that doesn't have a neurodevelopmental disorder can struggle with executive dysfunction. However, research has shown that individuals with ADHD and autism exhibit significant executive function deficits compared to their peers with those diagnoses. Early adolescence is an incredibly dynamic and crucial period for brain development. Between the ages of about 9 to 14, this is considered a window of opportunity for gaining new skills. Puberty, which happens during this window, creates an increase in dopamine receptors in the brain, which means new experiences feel really, really good and exciting. At the same time as all these exciting things happening to our teen, their prefrontal cortex has not matured yet to be able to regulate these intense sensations. The prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain that is responsible for executive functioning skills, and it actually is one of the last regions of the brain to develop. Around 25 years old is when it's fully mature.
How can understanding this brain development help parents better interpret their teen's behavior?
When parents are frustrated with their child, in the moment, it can be really hard to remember the developmental stage that their child is currently in and remember to have reasonable expectations for them. When we see our kids displaying inappropriate behaviors or responding to stress in really unhelpful or unsafe ways, as a parent, sometimes we view the behavior as a reflection of our own parenting skills. What's important to know is that every behavior that a human does is to meet a need. For children and teens, they may show concerning behaviors such as arguing, yelling, hitting, isolating, engaging in substance use, and maybe even self-harm. Children with delayed executive function skills can display very challenging behaviors, and we often view them as manipulative or as bad kids, or that they are choosing to make poor choices or respond in unhelpful ways. Often, these situations are because the prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed yet, and your child is trying to get their needs met in the only ways they know how. Again, this doesn't mean that it's a helpful or safe way to do that. The more you can remind yourself of the developmental stage your child is in, you are less likely to make harsh judgments on your child's behavior or emotions, and you're more likely to approach your child with empathy, patience, and a little bit more understanding. So, if we can remember the basics about adolescent brain development and apply the 30% rule to a child that struggles with executive dysfunction, this can help us set up more realistic expectations for your child and for yourself as a parent.
Let's move on to practical support. What strategies can parents use to help build their adolescents' executive functioning skills?
So, it might seem counterintuitive to focus on the parent first when it's their child that's struggling so much. But when it comes to supporting your child's executive function skills, it really starts with supporting yourself by having a parenting framework to follow. The 5 C's is a strategy developed by Dr. Saline, who is a psychologist well known for specializing in ADHD. She developed a strategy for parents to use for themselves and model certain behaviors to their child with the goal of promoting your child's strengths and independence. So I'm going to review the 5 C's. They start with self-control, compassion, collaboration, consistency, and celebration. Self-control, which does start with an S, but we'll forgive that, is really practice managing your own feelings so your child can see you model the effective and appropriate way to respond to stress and difficult emotions. Compassion is all about meeting your child where they're at, meaning you accept and love them at every step of the journey. You show empathy and support when they're struggling. And understanding that executive dysfunction is not a choice is really essential to helping you approach your child's difficulties with patience and empathy and be able to focus on their strengths. Listening to your child's challenges and concerns without judgment helps them feel safe and understood, which creates a stronger bond with your child and develops a sense of security and trust in the relationship. Collaboration is partnering together with your child to find solutions to problems. It's important to note here that if your child doesn't see something as a problem, it may take time to help them recognize the need for collaboration and change in the first place. That includes working with teachers or the school, your child's doctor, their pediatrician, a therapist, and other professionals in your child's care team. This is just as crucial to addressing your child's challenges and needs in different environments. Developing a collaborative team to implement support both at home and school and other areas can provide your child with a greater opportunity for progress and success later in life. The next C is consistency. We want to establish predictable routines and clear expectations, such as with daily activities, chores, homework, meal times, bedtime. As much as adolescents may claim to hate structure, we as humans thrive on it. And it's incredibly beneficial for your child to feel safe and comfortable in the home environment by knowing what to expect from their parent in any given situation. Consistency with discipline is also just as important. We want to set boundaries and applying the stated consequences consistently. That is key to fostering a secure home environment that helps your child develop their own self-discipline over time. The last C is celebration. Acknowledge and reinforce your child's progress and strengths. Celebrate every milestone, every success, no matter how small or routine it is. I believe this is the most important C in the acronym because as the parent, you're in a unique position to be your child's biggest fan. And the more you celebrate them, the more self-confidence they develop and the stronger your relationship will be.
Are there any particular strategies you recommend for managing school tasks, home responsibilities, or social obligations?
Yeah, so it really starts at home. The first strategy I would suggest is setting limits at home. Ensuring your child gets quality sleep and nutrition, setting simple limits at home, such as keeping technology out of the bedroom at night, having general bedtimes, and expectations for earning privileges helps create structure at home and improve cognitive function. As parents, we also want to model asking for help. Asking help is hard, it's uncomfortable, and sometimes your child doesn't know that they can ask for help or even that they should. You let your teen be the expert and teach you. Ask them for help with planning activities, fun family time, and have them teach you as often as the opportunity arises. Mindfulness is a great strategy. It's also a TikTok buzzword right now. So, what mindfulness really means is being aware of your own thoughts, emotions, and experiences in the moment without judgment. Practicing mindfulness means paying attention to what's happening in your body and your mind when you're stressed and being able to pause in the moment. Mindfulness improves our attention and can help regulate our emotions to slow down and not react negatively to a situation. Another strategy is movement. We know that regular exercise is incredibly beneficial. It also increases our working memory as well as helps improve sleep, our moods, and can reduce stress. This doesn't mean that we have to be running marathons. This can be a family activity as it's beneficial for everyone. You can suggest taking the dog for a walk together, walking a trail, playing a game together outside. As a therapist, I teach the skill opposite action to emotion. So what that really means is when you feel like quote unquote bed rotting, as our teens say, we want to do the opposite, which would be to move our bodies even in small ways. Another strategy is the idea of talking yourself into it. Coaching your child to practice positive self-talk and self-reflection is crucial to development. Our children learn how to manage stress by repeating what their parents or the adults in their lives say to them. Over time, this progresses to their inner voice and how they think about the world in relation to themselves. You can practice coaching your child through a problem by reframing their thoughts about something, such as saying, "What would your best friend say to you?" Or reminding them of their capabilities by saying, "I know this has been hard, and I'm confident that you can do this." Encourage your child to journal, write pro-con lists, start their days with speaking positive affirmations to themselves. These are all strategies to practice increasing self-regulation. Another strategy is to stop talking. No, I'm serious. Stop it. Ask open-ended questions with your child, but the key is to listen more than talk. Ask about their goals, encourage them to learn what they need to do to reach their goal, and offer suggestions when your child is ready. Having ongoing discussions with your teen and allowing them to steer the conversation can help improve planning, flexible thinking, and goal-directed persistence. Give them responsibility. Chores, part-time jobs, schoolwork, etc. Giving your child basic expectations and a deadline for a responsibility, and then let them decide how and when they will complete it by the deadline. Then, now this is incredibly important, let them fail. Natural consequences of failing are so invaluable lessons to be learned. Let them take the lead, sometimes with a little nudge, to pursuing their own goals. We want to start slow with independence, like having them make an appointment for a haircut, and then building up to researching steps to how to get their driver's license. Another step is providing organizational tools, such as planners, lists, establishing organization at home by having a home for everything, meaning a space for every item that they have. Developing routines are helpful and really hard for teens. So work with your team to develop a plan for organization that they feel empowered to use, and that also holds them accountable to following through with their goals. Something that we teach in program and as a therapist is SMART goals, and that stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And developing SMART goals with your child can help empower them to break tasks down into smaller pieces that they feel more confident to complete on their own. As simple as cleaning our bedrooms may feel to us as adults, it can become a daunting task to our child. So helping them develop a SMART goal around something is, again, simple to us as cleaning our room, for our child is helping them break that down into bite-sized pieces that they are able to successfully achieve on their own. Maybe that starts by putting away all of the dirty clothes. Then we put away everything that's green, etc. Another strategy that is incredibly helpful is Cope Ahead. So Cope Ahead is a DBT skill that we teach that means being proactive and preparing for anticipated difficulties by planning how to cope with expected problems and mentally rehearsing effective coping strategies ahead of time. As a parent, you want to practice Cope Ahead for situations that you know are challenging for your teen or even for yourself in relationship to your teen, and envision how you can prepare for it and manage it in the moment. Cope Ahead is a really great skill to model to your teen and is versatile for any scenario. So if your teen struggles every morning during school and the mornings are mad dash to get everyone out the door, there's lots of yelling, it's chaos, how can you cope ahead to limit stress, empower your child to plan in advance, and improve the outcome? The last strategy they have is seek support and know when to seek support. You want to partner with your school if needed, such as your teen's teacher, school social worker, counselor, especially if they're struggling in any areas of school. Individual therapy for your teen can be immensely beneficial to have a neutral support from a professional, as well as family therapy and even individual therapy for parents to provide them with support and guidance when the family is impacted by these challenges.
Parents often wonder about the right balance between supporting their teens and fostering independence. How can they find this balance while building executive functioning?
So it's important to develop a shared understanding of what improving your child's executive function skills means to you and to your child. The focus of supporting your child to improve in these skills, like goal setting, long-term planning, task management, they should really be about your child developing autonomy rather than compliance to you or society's expectations. We want to practice allowing our child the autonomy to fail forward, which is a term that refers to the acceptance of failure as a step toward their future success, and importantly, a step toward building resilience. Then, as a parent, you can provide them with the frequent opportunities to process this with you without receiving judgment about what they can do differently next time to improve the outcome. It's also important to identify how much your child's challenges are impacting their life. Are they failing their classes? Are they isolating more, losing friends? Are they struggling with their self-esteem, not really seeming like themselves? If your child can't function well within their social role, such as at school, being a friend, engaging with family, and it's because of their executive functioning challenges, then that's when they really need more direct parental guidance. Approaching discussions with your teen with respectful curiosity will go a really long way. For example, framing questions like, what could be the barrier to you completing this? What can I be doing differently to support you through this challenge? We also want to acknowledge realistic expectations. Just because we as adults can do something well doesn't mean our child will thrive in the same way. Some people learn to thrive with their executive functioning shortfalls rather than try to fight against or change them every single step of the way. It can be helpful to view executive function as a child's ability to align their thoughts, feelings, and behaviors with their goals. Your child's goals for themselves can be vastly different from your goals for them, and that's okay.
What advice would you give parents who feel frustrated when their child isn't progressing as quickly as they'd hope?
One of my favorite acronyms that I teach adolescents and their parents is Q-TIP. So imagine a little white Q-tip that you're not supposed to put in your ears, and it stands for quit taking it personally. It can be helpful to recall Q-tip to remind us as parents that many times our adolescent is not purposely struggling and does not want to be struggling in the ways that I've mentioned. Your teen also isn't struggling with executive function just to spite you, as much as sometimes we really feel like that's the case. As frustrated as a parent may feel about their teen's choices or behavior, their teen is likely already beating themselves up about it more than they ever should. I bring up the Q-TIP acronym because as parents, sometimes we focus so much on what we want a child to be like, rather than allowing them to figure out who they want to be and how they choose to get there. Instead of taking it personally when your child is not progressing on your expected timeline or in the way you'd like them to, allow yourself to look at their progress from their perspective. Check in with your teen and ask them to gauge where they feel like they've made progress, and also to identify areas for improvement that they would like to continue working on. Then you can emphasize their strengths and celebrate the progress they've already made while working as a team to develop strategies to work toward their next goal. When you believe that your teen can be successful and you pour that belief into them, they'll start to believe it too.
Marie, thank you for sharing your expertise and practical strategies for supporting executive function development in teens.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
I understand that these concepts can make a meaningful difference for families navigating this stage of life. For our listeners, if you'd like more resources and support, visit ehealth.org/LOH-parenting unplugged. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next month.